To review fractions, we will find the least common denominator and add and subtract fractions that have different denominators. How to find the LCD, known as the least common denominator. In the diagram on the right, it's easy to see that 7/8 is larger than 3/8. I mean, 7's larger than 3. You can see the shaded area of 7/8 is so much larger than the 3/8. However, it's not as easy to tell that 7/8 is larger than 5/6. I mean, which one's going to be the larger number or the larger fraction? In order to compare fractions, we must have the same common denominators. And so this process is called finding the least common denominator. And so the least common denominator is usually abbreviated as finding the LCD. Let's take a look at our 7/8 or 5/6. So notice that our denominators are 8 and 6. 8 times 1 is equal to 8, so 6 doesn't divide into 8. 8 times 2 equals 16. 6 doesn't divide into 16 either, but 8 times 3 is 24, okay? And 6 divides into 24 4 times. So notice that in order to compare these fractions, we must change both of the fractions to equivalent fractions with a common denominator. And so to do this, notice that we're going to multiply the 8 times 3 and we get 24. And then we multiply the 6 times 4, which gives us 24. Now when we do that, that means that the 7 is also times 3 and the 5 is also times 4. Okay, so notice that the 7/8 is still larger than the 5/6, though not by much, because you have 21 over 24 compared to 20 over 24. Let's look at example 2. Which one's larger, 4/9 or 5/12? Okay, examine the multiples of the larger denominator, 12, until the smaller denominator divides into it. So go ahead and see if you can figure out what the LCD here is. Okay, so notice that 12 times 1 equals 12, 12 times 2 equals 24, 12 times 3 equals 36. Well, 9 is a factor of 36, okay? And that tells us that 36 is our LCD. So now we're going to change each fraction to the equivalent fractions with LCD, right? So remember that the 9 has to be multiplied by 4, and the 4 on top in the numerator is going to also be multiplied by 4. So now we have 16 over 36. For 12, to get to 36, we just had to multiply by 3. So we multiply the top and the bottom by 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. 12 times 3 is 36. So notice that 1636 is larger than 1536. This means multiply the, yeah. All right. Try finding the LCDs and compare. 5/8 or 4/7. So what is the least common denominator between 8 and 7? All right. Well, if we multiply 8 times 7, we get 56. So sometimes if you just take your denominators, multiply them together, you will find the LCD of 56. Okay. We're going to multiply for our 5/8, we have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 7 for 5/8 and multiply the numerator and denominator by 8 for the 4/7. So 3556 compared to 3256 shows us that the 5/8 is larger than the 4/7. Okay, let's take a look at the 2/3 or the 11/15. Go ahead and tell me what the LCD is. All right, so the LCD between 3 and 15, in this case, 15 is a multiple of 3, so we only have to change the 2/3 fraction to the denominator 15. Sometimes it's very nice. So all we do is have to multiply 5, top and bottom, to the 2/3. So we get 11/15. And compare it to 11/15, okay? So we would have 10/15 compared to 11/15 shows us that the 11/15 is larger. All right, let's take a look at adding fractions with common denominators. So there's four main operations that we do with numbers. We do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In order to subtract or add fractions, they must have a common denominator. That's why we spent some time taking a look at LCDs again. Okay, this is not required for multiplication or division. To add fractions if the denominators are the same, we simply add the numbers together and keep the same denominators. Since the denominators are common, we're just simply adding the numerators. Okay, notice with 1/12 and 5/12, okay, if we add them together, we get 6/12, which then we can reduce. So you do have to still reduce. Okay. When one denominator is a multiple of the other, notice the denominators and they're not common. We have 2/9 and 5/27. Also notice that 27 is a multiple of 9 since 9 times 3 is 27, okay? So that means we only have to multiply out the 2/9 and we multiply the top and the bottom by 3 for 6/27, okay? And that also means that the LCD is 27. Then we can add these together once we have the 6/27 plus 5/27, and so our final answer is 11/27. So we must find common denominator by examining multiples of the largest denominator. Let's think about this one, and so we find that the LCD is 60, so we must multiply the 12 by 5 and the 15 by 4. Okay, so we'll have 7 times 5 is 35, and 13 times 4 is 52. Remember to reduce. The language of addition. 1/2 plus 2/3 can be worded 1/2 plus 2/3, 1/2 and 2/3, a total of 1/2 and 2/3, the sum of 1/2 and 2/3, addition of 1/2 and 2/3, 1/2 combined with 2/3, 1/2 more than or greater than 2/3 also means in addition. Note, all of these can be worded with fractions and the reversed order. 2/3 plus 1/2 is the same as 1/2 plus 2/3. Subtracting fractions, okay, and as in addition, we must have a common denominator in order to subtract. So we have 5/8 minus 3/8, okay, which would be equal to 2/8, or then we reduce for 1/4. Though if they're not the same, like 2/3 minus 3/8, then we have to find the LCD. So we got to change the fractions to the equivalent fraction with the LCD. Okay, in this case, we can use 3 times 8 is 24. But what that means is the first fraction has to be multiplied by we're going to have to multiply 8 on the top and the bottom here. And over here, we're going to have to multiply by our 3's. By our 3's. Okay, so then we would get 8 times 2 for 16 minus the 9 over 24 for 7 over 24. Okay, two more examples. Let's look at 9/12 minus 1/8. Okay, somebody tell me what the LCD is for 12 and 8. Okay, 24 is the LCD between 12 and 8. We're going to multiply 12 by 2, right? So that means that we're going to multiply the top and bottom by 2. And then over here, we're going to multiply the top and bottom by 3's. Okay, so then we're going to get 2 times 9 minus 3 times 1. So we'll have 18/24 minus 3/24. And that means that we will have a final answer of 15/24, which we can reduce then to 5/8. All right, let's take a look at this answer, at this one. Okay. Well, what is the LCD between 15 and 6? That's right. 30 is the LCD between 15 and 6. So again, remember that we're going to have to multiply the 15 side by 2 on the tops and the bottoms, and the 6 side will have to be multiplied by 5s. All right, once we do that, notice we'll get 28 over 30 minus 5 over 30, which will then give us 23 over 30, and that is the final answer because 23 over 30 cannot be reduced. The language of subtraction. Remember, 5 over 6 minus 2 over 3 can be worded 5/6 minus 2/3. You cannot say 2/3 minus 5/6. They don't mean the same thing. 2/3 from 5/6, 2/3 subtracted from 5/6, 2/3 less than 5/6. Notice how this one turns it around. So the less than is different, okay? So be aware of that. When they say less than, you're going to have to switch things. 5/6 decreased or lowered by 2/3, the difference of 5/6 and 2/3. Unlike addition, we cannot reword the above with the fractions in reverse order because 1/2 minus 2/3 is not the same as 2/3 minus 1/2. So this finishes your review of fractions. You will use all these skills when solving, simplifying, and graphing rational functions. This is the end, and thank you for your participation.